What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai, an extension of Anime Senpai PH channel. All pieces of information are derived from the light novel. In today's video, we will continue Chapter 1, Volume 8 of the light novel, entitled Reconciliation and Agreement. This video is the 8th part of Chapter 1 in our Tensura spoiler video series. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, feel free to check out the links in the description below. Now, let's get to the video. It sounded like Raphael was in a huff about something, but Rimuru ignored it. He followed Luminous's instructions and attempted to shrink down his own resistances. The moment he did, he could feel the intoxication sneaking into his mind. He couldn't believe he did it, and exclaimed mentally that this was what drunkenness felt like. Valdora laughed at Rimuru and teased him that Rimuru couldn't even do that. Valdora said that he had mastered that much eons ago, and he seemed proud of himself. Rimuru didn't know where Valdora practiced it, but Valdora was now in a marvelous state of inebriation. Right, another round, Rimuru shouted. Yes, let me join you, said Valdora. Lumina sniffed and said that if they too insisted, she supposed she would have a refill as well, calling them silly boys. Now things were heating up. Rimuru could almost hear Shuna rolling her eyes as she said, "Oh, Sir Rimuru," but she still grinned and poured out the drink. They were all much less formal now. All the adult beverages they made locally were on offer, along with fresh water and as many ice cubes as he wanted. There was juice and tea available for the non-drinkers too. Haruna was keeping Valdora's cup full, while Louie did the same for Luminous. There was a drinking contest brewing between Benimaru, Shion, and Soe, as well as among the lycanthropiers, and between Arnau and his fellow top paladin officers. Those paladins were pretty snooty at first, but once their commanding officer Arnau began sampling all the wares on hand, they loosened up considerably. Some were now amicably chatting with Rigurd and the rest, and a few of them asked the waitstaff for more food. One demonstrated interest in trying some of the food the monsters on hand were enjoying. Fritz was his name, a Crusader commander, alongside Arnau, and one of the 10 great saints. He was a nicer guy than Rimuru thought at first blush. Expressing an interest in what other people are eating is the first step toward understanding them. It was a nice sight to see. The drink was starting to make it tough. Rimuru thought he heard that Fritz was talking about that black rice. This black rice was made using a type of plant raised on magical water, the highly magical water found inside the sealed cave. Rimuru suggested trying that out as an experiment, and it resulted in rice that looked like an octopus squirted ink all over it. For someone like Rimuru, who enjoyed his rice hot, white and fluffy, black rice looked absolutely gross, but it tasted really good. It was also packed with nutrients, surprisingly, so they called the crop black spell rice and moved into full production of it. It was now a staple of Tempestian cuisine, but Rimuru was pretty sure there was some kind of issue with it he was forgetting. Rimuru was alarmed all the way back to sobriety and shouted that black rice was poisonous to humans. Unfortunately, Rimuru was too late. Fritz already had some in his mouth, but Rimuru was surprised when Fritz found that it was restoring his magical force. Rimuru asked him if he felt alright and not sick of anything. A weaker being taking in large quantities of magic could have hazardous health effects. This black spell rice was packed with magicals, which meant it was toxic to those with less than robust constitutions. Of course, it could also be a medicine in the right dosage, and potentially a dietary staple. Nobody in Tempest would have an issue with it, but Rimuru still hadn't tested out what it did to humans. Finding test subjects wasn't exactly easy. Fritz's reaction, however, was unexpected to him. Rimuru assumed it would be harmful to Homo sapiens, but beneficial to those who had enough magical force. Understood. The subject Fritz's magic power recovery effect has been confirmed. Those with resistance to magicals seem to be able to convert them into energy, said Raphael. Rimuru realized that eating this now, after exhausting his magic in that huge fight, made it all the more effective. The other paladins, seeing this, immediately clamored for tastes of their own. Having a few pints in you could be a dangerous thing sometimes, but none were afraid of the side effects. Hinata gave the black spell rice a funny look, likely reacting the same way Rimuru did at first. But without further complaint, Hinata sipped from the bowl of chazuke, consisting of the black rice with some tea poured on top of it. Rimuru also offered it in rice bowl form for those who wanted something a little heartier. Both selections were huge hits, and the second round was carried out to the party in very short order. Considering that Rimuru busted out his personal stash of white rice for this event, it was funny to see the black spell rice be the toast of the night instead. But if you aren't conditioned to be turned off by the color like Rimuru was, it must have been much more acceptable. So now Rimuru knew what this new breed of rice could do, and between that and all the other food and drink, he thought they were making a pretty good impression. Rimuru was starting to see monsters and paladins chatting with each other, taking advantage of the opportunity presented to them. Shion was even engaged in an impromptu arm wrestling tournament with 3 of the paladins, and she dominated them by the looks of it. But her opponents were all smiles regardless. Rimuru liked the trends he saw. Alcohol played no small role in it, but if this became the natural flow of things, it wouldn't be long before they're all on friendly terms. Good things to eat, enjoyable days to spend. That was his goal, and Rimuru wasn't afraid to strive for it. If he has any job here, he supposes it's to make sure this site doesn't go extinct. It gave Rimuru new resolve. Then Luminous asked Rimuru what he was doing. She told him to drink up, and that she would fill his cup. Valdora agreed with her and told Rimuru to enjoy this evening as much as they could, since Rimuru had the Demon Lord Luminous accompanying him. Rimuru told Valdora to chill out, but he asked Luminous why a vampire like her was eating and getting drunk. Luminous told him to shut up, calling him fool. She explained that once you grew powerful enough, even a vampire could gain sustenance enough from regular food. Then Luminous asked Rimuru to hurry up and empty his mug. That wasn't what Rimuru was getting at, but she was in no mood to listen. So there Rimuru was, 2 drunken louts on both sides of him. He felt that newfound resolve disappear from his mind. Before Rimuru could stop them, they were taking shots from the sake they brewed from the black spell rice. Rimuru thought he heard Hinata curtly whispering at them to slow it down. She had a faint smile though, so maybe the booze was giving Rimuru auditory hallucinations. She was kind of cute, actually, when she smiled. Not that Rimuru was gonna tell her. Morning came and Rimuru woke up with a headache. Understood. Of course it does. This is the backlash after deliberately weakening your resistances, said Raphael. He thanked Raphael for the feedback. Raphael sounded a bit peeved, but Rimuru was sure he was imagining it. Nobody's skills get mad at them. Rimuru shook the mental cobwebs away. Today they had an important meeting to conduct. One that could decide how Tempest and the Holy Empire of Lobelius dealt with each other going forward. Rimuru was now seated in their usual meeting hall, soldiering through his headache. Honestly speaking, if things had turned out differently, they might have been fighting both Lobelius and the Western nations affiliated with it. The papacy had given the temple knights stationed in Farmus permission to act. And if worse came to worse, the casualties on their side would have been eye-popping. If you thought about it like that, they couldn't afford to be too chill here. On the other hand though, Rimuru was done punishing Farmus. Not a single one of the temple knights who conspired against them was breathing today. They had a duty to govern over there, so Rimuru wasn't exactly an impartial observer. But Hinata had already apologized to him. And the masterminds who schemed against them were already gone. If they could build friendly relations, they were golden. There wasn't much point asking for reparations. They already had plenty of that from claimants and Farmus's coffers. And Farmus was physically far enough away from them that annexing it or making it into some kind of colony was too much of a pain. If the other side had admitted fault, money honestly wasn't as important to Rimuru as working to build relations. In time, Luminous and her people entered the hall. Tempest was represented here by Rimuru, Shion, Rigurd, and Benimaru, along with Rugurd, Regard, and Rogard, the government ministers of justice, legislation, and administration, respectively. Valdora was there too, but safely ignorable. He had some manga to read, and Rimuru doubted he'd even bother to pay attention. From Lobelius, meanwhile, they had Luminous, Louie, Hinata, and the 5 top Paladin officials. Rimuru had them all make their formal introductions. There was Vice Captain Renard, the Noble of Light. There was Arnau of Air, the strongest of the Force after Hinata. And under him was Bacchus of Earth, Lightus of Water, and Fritz of Wind. Rimuru had them all, seated facing one another. And with that, the proceedings began. Rimuru wanted to start with a brainstorm session to see what each side's takes were on this situation. Along those lines, he created a list of issues affecting all of them and passed them to everyone to kick things off. This was just to ensure they were all on the same page. That's it for this video, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you will never miss the upcoming continuation of Tensura's spoiler video series. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the top 10 commenters on my previous video. Shout out to Michael, DISCLAIMER420, Cypher, Luke Devilux, Joji Ray, Jamie Ira, Abhishek Dungdung, Jasraj Jen, Commander Neo, Joshua Saturno, Shubham Busari, Fuzukun, Fahim Jahangir, Raja Rajan, Ender Squad 360, and last but not the least, shout out to Yusef BTR. I'll see you guys in the next video.